Okay.
Well, Catherine, just tell us, how did you get involved in this? Are you from West Virginia? I mean, what motivated you to do the documentary?
Well, I was born in Summersville in 1966, and my dad's a Presbyterian preacher. And when we were really little in Summersville, there was a lot of strip mining going on, and he would take us around to the strip mining and show it to us. And I wasn't really sure exactly what it was, but I remember it really clearly. He was against it, and at that time there were no rules governing what you could do. So then in the 70s they passed there was the Surface Mining Control and Reclamation Act, and there was a movement, and I kind of forgot about it. Then in 1999, my sister, who just finished this novel and is a kind of an Appalachian scholar, started forwarding me these emails from a listserv called AppleNet, which is an academic listserv that deals with Appalachian studies issues, kind of an esoteric group down there. And she was like, "Oh, do you remember strip mining?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, that was, I barely could even remember it." She was like, "Well, they're doing this new type of strip mining called Mountaintop Removal, where they're blasting off an entire mountaintop." And I just really couldn't conceive of it. I mean, I grew up in Romney. Like, we moved from Summersville to Romney, and we lived in between two mountain ridges, and I was just trying to conceive. I mean, that people didn't even want roads built, let alone like the entire top taken up. Like, I just couldn't imagine the psychological effect on my parents or the community and the disruption of mountains, which are core to the kind of culture there, and I mean core to the entire kind of feeling of the people. So we decided, and the Baltimore Sun did a story about it, and I saw the flyover photo, and I just saw this, like, the extent of the devastation, and I was just shocked. I mean, I was stunned. I couldn't imagine like how or why it was happening. So we went down, just kind of like rushed down there in a sense to find out like what's going on down here, And when we got down there, I was thinking about shooting some footage and bringing it back to Baltimore, because I was doing short films at that time, and I thought I would show it to some people in Baltimore, and kind of that would be it. But once we got down there and actually started talking to the people, I realized that they were desperate to tell their story. No one was really focusing on them. They did not have any national media at the time. They had a Nightline story and a 60-minute story that were short pieces, but nobody was really looking at the problem extensively and also giving these people a voice. I mean, and the level of emotion and kind of anger, and plus being from West Virginia, and it's kind of like in cultures of poverty, there's a lot of fatalism, and there's a lot of kind of apathy. I mean, I grew up in a small town where everything was no, 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 what you can't do, nothing's going to change, don't even try to change it, pray about it. You know what I mean? Don't do this, pray about it. And so I was stunned to see the level of activity, that was going on in the communities, that people were like going way outside of the boundaries of what I think are is normal anyway, and then even in those communities, they were really like becoming pariahs in their own communities. They felt so strongly about it, so they needed that external support. They're under a lot of pressure down there from the coal industry and some of the families that work in the coal industry. So that sent us on like a 5-year odyssey of collecting these stories and trying to put them together and everything. And now that's much more on the national. And I've shown this film about 70 times now, and it's broadcast on free speech television. And parts of this film have been on Sunday's Channel, and Bill Moyer has just been excerpting it at different times. But and now this was released in 2006. There's 2 other feature-length documentaries out now, and then Marilyn Evans, who did the Appalachians, is supposedly working on another huger piece with Kathy Mattea. Apparently, Kathy Mattea is on the verge of talking about this. Although it seems to be a little bit of gossip, is that is she going to put her career on the line? Basically, having made a career off of kind of singing songs about the coal industry, is she going to put that whole career on the line by being featured in a documentary where she's highly critical of it? So you can see just from that story like how the lines are drawn down there. Like you're either for the coal industry or they hate you, you're their enemy. So that's kind of how it all.
And the title, where did the title come from, Catherine?
Well, the title's just
Black Diamond.
Well, it just refers to, the coal is considered very valuable, so sometimes it's referred to as black diamonds. Sunshine underground. There's a whole bunch of other stuff they call it. But. Interesting conversation with this guy, a younger guy named Eric, and he's the one who's doing this wind energy in Mingo County thing. And he did his thesis about coal communities, and he was describing to me the difference between a monopoly and a monopsony, which I'd never heard about. Kind of theoretical. So a monopoly is when you control everything that's consumed in an area. And a monopsony is when you control all the workforce. You're the only employer in the area. So when you have a monopsony, it just creates a situation in which if another industry comes in, it's going to drive up your labor cost, and you don't want that. You know what I mean? So if you can manage to get a monopsony happening, then you don't want diversification in the economy, which is what they've managed to do down there. Like, there's no other industry down there at all, especially in Boone, Raleigh, Mingo. So all the kind of, if you go down into the communities, I mean, it's really stark. Like, the people who are working in the mines have like 2 cars, really nice cars, and like a certain house. And the people who aren't are like what you would see as like the stereotypical people who are driving like really older cars and don't have as good health or whatever. So the people who can get, and also with Massey, with AT Massey is run by Don Blankenship, who was born and raised in West Virginia. And he's created a company that, he's a union buster. His big claim to fame is he's never hired a union worker ever, and he's been extremely powerful down there. And when you join Massey, you become a Massey member. You're not an employee, you're a member, and they help you get your mortgage, everything. It's kind of like the same old version of the company store, but like they do everything for you. They do your retirement, they do your health benefits, they help you with your mortgage. So everything is tied up in Massey. So even if you wanted to leave, or there's just nowhere else to go, because everything's still tied up in that employer. So,
Catherine, remedy-wise, I know they had these court cases, but long-term, would it be federal legislation? You're going to have to wait for the Bush-Cheney gang to get out?
Definitely. I mean, I view this as being very similar to segregation. I view it as being really similar to, kind of what's happened with whaling. I mean, the local communities are not going to wake up one day and stop it, you know what I mean? So I think it's kind of like a moral issue that needs to be resolved by, federal legislation. I mean, it's very depressing. Rockefeller's done nothing. They met with Rockefeller's aide. He did nothing. Bird's done nothing. They went to meet with Nick Rahal. Nick Rahal yelled and screamed at them.
And he's like head of the, I saw him on C-SPAN, he's
head of the... It's horrible.
What committee is he head of? Like natural resources or something?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. I mean, Hillary and Obama, clean coal. Clean coal does not exist. I just was reading this thing and they're doing this whole Obama, there's a whole ad campaign that's like, Obama's all about clean coal in Kentucky. And the definition of clean coal is like a certain percentage carbon sequestration and a certain, there's all these things that they need to meet.
dump it underground somewhere.
Yeah, to meet the clean coal standard. And that doesn't even exist. It's not going to exist for 15 years, but I guarantee you've seen an ad in the last week about clean coal, probably somewhere. They're doing a massive media campaign, and it's just not true.
He doesn't understand it himself, probably. Wonder if he's seen, has he seen this?
I don't know. I mean, I know Al Gore. I mean, Al Gore is involved. Al Gore knows. Al Gore's been very adamantly against it. But I don't know. I don't know. I think Barack Obama really needs to speak out. I read a story about somebody who met Hillary Clinton and gave Hillary Clinton a book about it, and he was very frustrated because he wanted to talk to her about the book, and all she wanted to talk about was his T-shirt. She just totally ignored the question. So he became very angry, and he was a Hillary supporter, he's a big Hillary supporter, and he was like, I can't believe she wanted to joke with me about my T-shirt instead of talking to me about this issue. You know what I mean? It's so powerful for our state. She just glossed it completely.